Wagner, if you're driving, I'll give you a minute to pull over, but I can't permit you to participate in court while you're operating a motor vehicle.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And I'm guessing the mother is not with you. Is that right?
No, she's not.
Okay. Ms. Gomez, were we expecting the mother or Mr. Dennis?
Judge, it doesn't sound like we've had contact in a while.
Okay.
So I would not be surprised if she's not here.
And it looks like Mr. Wagner's parked now. Is that right? Okay. Case is on the court's docket for an initial permanency. The department is present through Ms. West. Kevin Keithley is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the child. Mr. McLeod is present with the father, Heath Wagner. Mr. Dennis is present for the mother, Deja Jones. We're set for an initial permanency. Looks like there's no service issues. You may proceed, Ms. West.
The department calls Yolanda Gomez. Ma'am, am I correct that you have an update regarding Hayden's placement?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And at this time, where is Hayden currently placed?
At this time, she is in a foster home in Killeen.
So how did Hayden end up in a foster placement?
Her previous caregiver stated that at this time she couldn't take care of Hayden and had to get some things together, like a new apartment and all of that, to be able to pass the home study. So she asked for Hayden to be removed from her care. There was no family at the time given to us, so she was placed in a foster home.
And when was Hayden placed in the foster home?
She was placed, but I believe it was the last week of July.
So she's been in a foster home for a couple of weeks now, correct?
Correct.
How is she doing in that placement?
She's doing great.
Any concerns with that placement?
No, there are no concerns.
Now, you said right now she's in a foster placement, but am I correct? She's soon hopefully going to be moved.
Yeah, she's going to be moved today with her paternal grandmother.
And is this the same individual who is placement for Hayden's sibling?
Yes.
And you said you're placing her today?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, has the paternal grandmother had any sort of contact with Hayden?
To my knowledge, she hasn't.
Okay. And ma'am, when this placement broke down, did you reach out to the parents to try to find a relative or fictive kin option?
I did, and I sent the research form. They got it to me after we had moved her. But I did reach out as soon as we got it to see if the family could be placement.
And so Mr. Wagner provided his mother?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any other updates as it relates to Hayden?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Ma'am, as it relates to the mother, it's listed in the court report. She's only visited the child once during this case, correct?
Correct.
Is that still the case?
Yes, that is still the case.
Do you have any updates on her progress on her family plan of service since the court report was filed?
So I did talk to Dr. Shinder's office, and they did let me know that she has completed 3 parenting classes. I believe I had listed 2, but it's 3. She did go last week, but she signed in and left, and didn't stay to complete that class.
So has she completed that 3rd parenting class if she just signed in and left?
No, she completed the 3rd class, but for the 4th class, she just signed in and left.
Okay. Do you have any other updates regarding her progress?
No.
Am I correct? She's still not drug tested since July 13th?
She has not drug tested since April 13th.
She's continued to not drug test since July 13th.
Yeah.
I've
There's
read the
not been any
report.
update. Okay.
I've read the report. I know how many visits they've had and how many drug tests they've missed.
Do you have any other updates that relates to the mother?
No.
And as it relates to the father, do you have any updates on his progress on his family plan of service?
No, I did. He did provide me the email for the therapist at Cinecor. I am just waiting for her to respond to me.
Are there any additional services the department believes would be helpful for the father at this time?
Dr. Shinder did recommend anger management and a psychiatric evaluation. I do believe that may be helpful for Mr. Wagner.
So is the department requesting for anger management and psychiatric evaluation to be added to his family plan of service?
Correct.
And do you know if anger management can be incorporated into his therapy?
I am not sure yet since he's doing therapy with Cinecor. So I would have to check with his therapist.
Do you have any other updates as it relates to Mr. Wagner?
Not at this time.
Is there anything else you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
No.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. McLeod?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gomez, the report indicates that Mr. Wagner is to participate in inpatient rehab. Since he's out driving around, I'm assuming he's an outpatient. Is that correct?
Yes, outpatient rehab.
Is the department willing to accept the outpatient, or is that a modification versus having it to be inpatient if you get the notes from the therapist?
It just depends because he had been doing outpatient and continued to test positive for methamphetamine and marijuana. If it does help him stay clean, then that we would be able to accept that. But if it doesn't, he does have to do inpatient.
Okay, now I've showed by your report, well, he hadn't drug tested, I guess, since June 20. Is that still correct?
Yes, that's still correct.
Okay. The child's been moved to his mother, correct?
She'll be moved today.
Okay. And now I know he hasn't been drug testing, so having not drug tested, he doesn't get any visits. But if he were to drug test regularly, have you spoken with his mother about her willingness to supervise contact for him?
I have not. I was going to speak with her today about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No other questions.
Mr. Keithley?
I don't have any questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Dennis?
No questions, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses, Ms. West?
No further witnesses.
Any witnesses, Mr. McLeod?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Keithley?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Dennis?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Just summing up, what I hear is, Mr. Wagner, you're doing outpatient drug treatment. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Ms. Gomez, was the recommendation for inpatient or outpatient?
He didn't do an OSAR, but due to the history of Mr. Wagner and the other cases, we did recommend inpatient rehab since it's a continued drug issue for him. So, yeah.
Okay. So what I hear the department saying, Mr. Wagner, is if the outpatient is working to help you live a sober life, then they are not going to ask that you be ordered to go to inpatient. But you've got to test so that we know. The department is trying to help parents be able to provide a safe and stable home. But if you don't test to let us know if it's working or not, we're wasting our time. And so what I'll order is that you continue the outpatient program. I'm going to order that you drug test like you're supposed to. In the event that you don't test, or in the event that you test positive, then I'm going to order inpatient. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to make you go to inpatient if you're going to be able to be successful on outpatient, but I don't want to miss an opportunity for the department to provide you an opportunity to learn how to be drug-free. And so that way, it's ordered outpatient for now. But is there any reason if it's your color, you won't be able to test when it's your color?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And again, we're not at the very beginning of the case, but if you're just now trying to do the right thing, I just need you to drug test so that we know what we need to do to help you.
Judge, may I ask a question regarding that drug testing and the possible referral to inpatient?
Sure.
Looking at his last test, there was marijuana involved. Now, I know the other ones get out of the system quickly on a UA, but marijuana does not. Now, that was a low level, but.
Okay, I get your point.
Okay.
If his UAs are only for marijuana and the numbers are going down, then that will not trigger an order for inpatient. But if the numbers go up, or if it's something other than marijuana, then they'll be inpatient. Okay. The court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plan. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. The court finds that the department is making reasonable efforts to reunify and also to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan at this time. The court finds at this time the parents are not making progress on the family service plans. I will add, based on Dr. Schinder's recommendation, that dad will attend anger management and also have a psychiatric evaluation. In the event that the therapist can do anger management as part of the individual therapy, if y'all can get that confirmed one way or the other pretty quick so that Mr. Wagner will know if it's a separate referral or would be part of individual therapy. I'll add the psychiatric evaluation. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give discretion to the department and Mr. Keithley to evaluate if it would be in the best interest of your child for your mother to supervise your visits, sir. Okay? So for right now, your visits are going to stay at the department, but if Ms. Gomez and Mr. Keithley, after visiting with your mom and various things, determine that she would be able to supervise, willing to supervise, and would be in the best interest of this child, I'm giving them discretion to do that. Until that happens, please don't try to get visits by going to your mom's, because that would look bad on her, okay? And we want that. I'm glad that Ms. Gomez worked so diligently. I'm sorry we had that one foster placement in between, but worked very diligently to get this child with family, and we don't want to mess that up. So I'm giving discretion for that. The other thing, sir, is that if you don't drug test, then we don't even get to the issue of whether your mom can supervise. Okay, you've got to drug test consistently to have those visits.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Sir, the law requires that I admonish all parents, if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. December 12th, 2023 is the second permanency and final, and our dismissal date is status hearing. February. The department is present through Ms. Gongora. Robin Houston is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children. Sam Martinez is present for the mother, Ana Delia Ruiz Bustos. There is an alleged father, Juan Carlos Orozco. He has not been served and has not appeared. There is also Mr. Maynard Mija. He has not been served and is not present, although I know the department's had some contact with him. You may call your first witness.
The department calls Kelsey Rudd. Miss Rudd, what efforts has the department made to try and get in contact with Mr. Juan Carlos Orozco?
Well, we reached out to the ICE facility, and that's when we were informed that he had been released, but they couldn't tell us where. And then I did do a diligent search on Mr. Orozco, and there was only one address that came up from like 2015 was the last known date of it. And then there was a phone number for a relative, and that was the only thing that came up on that. And I haven't been able to make contact through either of those yet.
And I believe you stated that you contacted this facility and they could not give you any information.
That's correct.
And that was early on in this case. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it your understanding that the investigator that was assigned to this case had also tried to do the same thing and wasn't able to get you any information that would be helpful?
That's correct.
What about the other alleged father, Mr. Maynard Mejia?
I have had contact with him. He still insists that he has taken a paternity test that was negative, and he said that he would work on getting that documentation for me. He hasn't provided it yet, but I do have his contact information, and he is eager to get this sorted out so that he no longer has to be included.
And where is he currently located?
I believe he's in Austin.
Okay. And do we have do we have an address for him?
I haven't verified with him, but there is one in Impact in our system.
Is that the address that we attempted to serve him at?
Yes.
Okay, and so that service was unsuccessful. Is that correct?
Yes.
When you are talking to Mr. Mejia, did you ever let him know that you're trying to get him served?
I did.
And what was his response to that?
He said he's willing to do whatever he needs to do. He wasn't aware of any attempts, but he said he is willing to do whatever he needs to do to get this sorted out.
Do you believe that it's possible that you could arrange a time to meet up with him and have him sign maybe a waiver of service?
I believe he would be agreeable to that.
Okay. And is that something that you can work on sometime this week?
Yes, ma'am. I have mediation on Friday and a couple of other things, but I will try to do it this week. If not, next week. I have time, certainly.
Okay.
One more thing while I'm thinking of it. Ms. Gongora, if you would like to send Ms. Rudd not only with a waiver, but also an order for DNA testing so that he can sign the waiver, he can let us know under oath what his address is, and he can also sign off on the request for genetic testing. Then as soon as that happens, I will order it. And then Ms. Rudd, if you'll just make sure he knows that the letter's going to go to whatever address he puts in that waiver and that order for DNA testing. And it would likely be a place in Austin near him. And if you'll also let him know that right now, I could make a finding that he's the dad. He needs to just do the DNA test. I mean, he needs to help us help him.
Okay, will
I'm
do.
sorry, Ms. Gongora, go ahead.
And then Ms. Rudd, in regards to the family service plan, there is one on file for the mother specifically. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to review that family plan with the mother?
I went to go visit her prior to making it, but I did go over the things that I plan to put on the family plan with her, and she was in agreement with those.
So she helped in the creation of that family plan.
That's correct.
Has she been able to sign that family plan of service?
Not yet.
Did she indicate that she had any issues with any of the services that were listed?
Ma'am.
And I believe that it was stated earlier, but just for clarification, the mother is still currently incarcerated in McLean County Jail.
Correct.
Does she have any current bond amounts, or did you discuss with the mother about her plans of potentially being released soon, or whether or not that's in the works?
Told me that she hadn't had any communication with her criminal attorney, but somebody had told her that she just needed to pay her bond and then she could be released. And then her plan would be to go to Mexico willingly. She said that is what she wants to do. However, I haven't been able to verify if it's possible for her to bond herself out because of the immigration detainer.
All right, that's what I was going to get to. She has an immigration detainer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then just to give the court an update, how is Ryan doing?
Doing much better.
Were there some issues between the adversary in this hearing that required him to be rehospitalized?
There were.
Can you explain that? What happened?
He had started throwing up blood and had a fever, and the foster parents took him to the hospital, and they did run some tests and do an endoscopy where they saw evidence of chemical burns in Ryan's esophagus. So they did have a PICC line and a breathing tube in for a short period of time and gave his throat a little bit of time to heal, and then slowly started working in soft foods and solid foods again.
And was that also the chemical burns? Was that also an indicator of some possible physical abuse that he incurred at the hands of his mom?
Yes.
But it sounds like he's been able to recover from that. Is that correct?
Yes, he is recovering.
Okay. And I think you said that the boys are both doing well in their current placement.
Yes, ma'am.
The children are having some issues with nightmares and night tremors or terrors. Is that correct?
We're here for a status hearing. Is there anything else that relates to the family service plans or service?
Not at this time, Judge. I just thought, given the reason that we're here with these children, the court would like an update on how they're doing in their placement. But I have no further questions.
Okay. If there's something that's urgent or that needs immediate attention, but otherwise my preference is to have a status hearing that takes up the status issues and permanency hearings to take up the permanency. Mr. Martinez, any questions of Ms. Rudd?
Ms. Rudd, when did you go out and speak with Ms. Ruiz?
I believe it was July 20th or 21st.
And who did you go out there with?
And an interpreter.
And so the interpreter explained everything to her and she was agreement with the service plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
I passed witness.
Ms. Houston?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Rudd, I have one question. Ms. Ryan doesn't actually have a birth certificate, correct?
Correct.
Has the department started the process to try to secure him one?
Yes, I'm working on that.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Are these children U.S. citizens?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
Anything further from anyone?
Not at this time, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
All right. The court will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the children's current placement. I will make the family service plan for the mother an order of the court. I've made a note that there are 2 family service plans for the alleged fathers, but they have not been served, so I can't order them at this time. There is no one here to warn regarding the family service plans. Initial permanency is December 12th, 2023. Second permanency and final is April 9th, 2024. And our dismissal date is June 24th. The department is present through Ms. Gongora. CASA is Freya's guardian ad litem. CASA is available present through Ms. Goldsmith. Robin Houston is Freya's attorney ad litem. Sam Kinslow is present for the father, Lyndon McGuire. And Christy Ryan is present with the mother, Alma Simeon or Alma McGuire. We're set for a final. Is everyone ready for a final hearing?
We are planning to move forward, but just so the court's aware, the department will be seeking a monitored return for the outcome.
And Ms. Houston, is that your recommendation as well?
Your Honor, my client does desire permanency with her mother, so that would be my recommendation as well.
Mr. Kinslow?
I have not had communication with my client in a while. I do not know his position. It's been various throughout the case. I do not know his current position.
I'm sure Ms. Ryan's in favor of the monitored return. How
Yes,
about CASA?
Yes, CASA's in favor as well.
All right, so let's do this. There is a report that has been prepared. Let's go ahead and take this hearing up, assuming it's a permanency so that we can wait a while before we need to be back in court. Also, during your questions, I think the main thing that the court is concerned about is making sure that mom is understanding exactly what is expected of her, what is not expected of her, and all the ways that hopefully this will not go wrong if there's any misunderstandings. You may call your first witness, Ms. Gongora.
The department calls Emily Tabor, and you are the caseworker that's currently assigned to this case. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Now, at our last setting, the department and CASA and the ad litem got together and made a very detailed list of services and plans that they wanted mom to have in place before considering a monitored return to her. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And specifically, what has the department seen in the last few months in regards to that plan and regarding Miss McGuire's preparation to receive Freya back into her home?
So the department has observed that Miss McGuire has been complying with her visitation plan, picking Freya up every other week on Fridays, keeping her throughout the week, as well as keeping her safe and clean during that week. With that being said, during those weeks, Alma has been required to ensure that she has a licensed childcare or facilitator caring for Freya during the times that she's at work. During that time, Freya has been attending the summer YMCA camp program, and she, to my knowledge, has been really enjoying it and making friends. Alma's been required to continue her day shift. She cannot work the night shift at this time due to there not being a qualified caregiver who could care for Freya, and also Freya be comfortable with that as well.
And specifically, the department in the past has had a lot of concerns regarding Miss McGuire potentially having inappropriate individuals such as her adult daughter, or maybe just some individuals who haven't passed CPS's background check coming in and supervising Freya while Miss McGuire is out of the home. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In order to see if that is still an issue, it's my understanding that the department as well as CASA have made several pop-up visits, announced and unannounced, throughout the last few months. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has the department, or to your knowledge, has CASA ever had any issues or reported any issues of that going on?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge. And during my last visit with Alma, we did have a very lengthy conversation about how, if anybody is to be watching, Freya is to be through a licensed facilitator, or such as care.com. I believe that was negotiated in the MSA, that we can't have neighbors or anybody random coming in to watch Freya, and Yumi is not allowed to watch Freya.
And Miss McGuire has understood that for at least the last few months. And are you confident that she is going to continue with that in this monitored return?
Yes, ma'am. And I think that it's something that can be achieved as well with myself and CASA, with the consistent reminder, hey, don't forget that we cannot have so-and-so around, just so we can make sure that we cover our basis and make sure that that does not go away during the monitored return.
Now, Miss Tabor, this was obviously during the summertime. Freya has now transitioned back into school. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. She has been enrolled in.
And she started school last week.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it was last week. That is correct.
Has Miss McGuire made after school plans, or is there a plan in place for that kind of transition between Freya being out of school before Miss McGuire gets off of work, or anything similar?
Yes, ma'am. And she's still attending the YMCA after school day camp. The YMCA will pick her up from the elementary school and bus her to the YMCA. And during days that there is not a YMCA camp after school care that day for any specific reason, Miss McGuire has also identified the Mother Goose Daycare, which is just day-to-day daycare, as a backup option as well.
And so all of these plans are in place to ensure that if Miss McGuire is not able to care for Freya specifically, there is someone as a backup who's licensed, or a specific program that she's going to be involved in. So Miss McGuire would not have to rely on saying a random neighbor down the street, or her adult daughter. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What other safety measures has the department gone over with Miss McGuire?
We've gone over the basic safety, of course, including that she cannot be left alone with anybody, that she must attend school. Otherwise, unless she is sick, then at which point she needs to go to the doctor and have a doctor's note excused. That she has the safety parameters of while she has school, she has extra eyes on her as well. Other than that, it's just continuing to make sure that Alma continues to work the daytime shift, not the nighttime. Freya sleeps in the main bedroom of the apartment, so she has her own place to sleep. And we will also be popping in, courtesy worker CASA and myself will be popping in unannounced.
And Ms. Tabor, is there anything that you've observed in these last few months that you feel the court needs to be made aware of that Ms. McGuire has done well, or that's a change from how she was previously, or anything regarding why the department is comfortable moving forward with a monitored return at this time?
I will say that I feel like Alma has a more clear understanding of the severity of the situation. I don't like that Miss McGuire has stated that she is terrified. We don't want her to be afraid of the department. We want her to know that we are more of an ally, and that we want her to reunify with her daughter, but that we must stick with our parameters that we have set in place, and to keep Freya's safety at the forefront of her mind. Alma's done a pretty good job at keeping Freya busy. They like to go walking to the park and do activities whenever it's not too hot outside. And I feel like Alma's doing really well, and that she understands, and we will continue to reiterate our safety measures as well.
And certainly, Ms. Tabor, it appears that Freya is also very happy to be with her mom. Is that correct?
She is very happy to be with her mom. She feels like it's more entertaining. She feels like she gets more attention. In her previous placement, there were a lot of children, and let's face it, she's not getting as much one-on-one time. Also, I just now remembered for some reason that Freya and Alma are also still participating in family therapy, and that's going to be a continued service during the monitored return as well.
Is there anything else that you feel the court needs to be made aware of at this time?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan?
Just to confirm, Ms. Tabor, so in the monitored return, she'll obviously continue to follow the guidelines that we have in place, right? That, as you said, no unlicensed caregiver, correct? So
Yes,
all of
ma'am.
those will continue. Nothing changes.
Yes, ma'am. Nothing changes.
Okay. And there's nothing else that you believe Ms. McGuire could do better or differently to help her continue to be successful?
No, ma'am. I think as long as she continues doing as she has, I believe it'll all be good.
Okay. And concerning the night shift, just for the court's clarification, Ms. McGuire actually changed jobs, correct? To
Yes.
a different daytime where she won't be working at night.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Okay. That's all, Your Honor. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Kinslow?
Thank you. Ms. Tabor, have you had any contact with my client, Lyndon McGuire?
Unfortunately, since his release from the Upshur County Jail, I have not had further contact with him. I did contact his sister, who is Freya's previous caregiver. She has not had any further contact with Lyndon as well. And last she heard is that he could be residing in the area that she lives in, homeless, and
See who?
Mr. McGuire.
Lives in the area that she lives in.
Yes, she reported that her
Who's she? Who's she?
oh sorry, Elizabeth Anderson, the previous
Okay.
caregiver.
Down, okay, not near mom.
Yes, correct. Not near mom, near Elizabeth Anderson, the previous caregiver.
Thank
Yes. Yes. She reported that he's living in the area that she lives in somewhere, but last she heard is that he's likely homeless. And unfortunately, there's a lot of heavy drug use, and she is not wanting to seek out her brother. So she does not know his exact location.
And I don't believe my client's in compliance to have visits, but his visits are restricted to wherever the judge had at the original hearing. There's no change in his visitation. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. No other questions?
Ms. Houston?
Your Honor, Ms. Gongora covered the items I was going to ask about with Freya. I'm assuming Freya is doing well in the very small amount of school that she's been to so far, yes? Ms. Tabor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. She is doing really well. She's making friends, and she's been able to link up with some friends that she met at the YMCA. So she already had some friends from that program. So she's doing really good.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Does anyone have any further questions of Ms. Tabor?
I did, Your Honor. I just wanted
Go ahead.
to, Ms. Tabor, talking about Freya's father, do you have any indication that my client is in contact with Freya's father?
I do not have any knowledge of any contact. Ms. McGuire has stated that she knows that allowing Freya to have contact with him is what resulted in the removal. She understands that he cannot be around Freya, and that we are not recommending any contact between him and Freya whatsoever.
And that, I guess to take it one more step, she understands that he can't be around Freya, but you don't have any or knowledge that she is in contact. She, being Ms. McGuire, is in contact with Freya's dad, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then the same for, and I believe it's Ms. McGuire's older daughter that was also kind of involved in this in the prior case. Do you have any indication that that daughter, I guess she's an adult now, has been in contact with Freya?
So to my understanding from my contact with Alma in July, she stated that Freya has not had any contact with Yumi, and that she actually herself is not as close to her daughter as she used to be. That her daughter has primarily prioritized her relationship with her father and doesn't really have much contact with Alma, if any at all.
Okay. But same type of questions that your understanding of my client's position is, my client knows that Freya doesn't need to be around you. And that's another part of this whole plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all.
Any further witnesses, Ms. Gongora?
Not at this time, Judge.
Ms. Ryan?
I would just briefly call my client.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Briefly, Alma, you've heard the testimony by Ms. Tabor, and you understand that if Freya is returned to you on a full-time basis, that you are not to have anyone other than the daycare or someone through care.com take care of Freya outside of your care. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So if you have to work during a school holiday, then your daughter either has to be at the Y or daycare or somebody that you found through care.com.
Yes.
Okay. And you understand the same for that Freya is not allowed to have any contact with her father.
Yes.
Okay. Even if you think it's fine, you understand going forward, no contact, period. Correct. And that you don't have any contact with Freya's father, correct?
No, I never have since last year.
Okay. And then same with Yumi, you understand that maybe you can talk to Yumi, but that Freya cannot have any contact or be watched by Yumi.
Yes.
Okay. And that your is your current job, is it Monday through Friday?
Yes, we do Monday to Friday, and then Priya will stay to YMCA till 6:30.
Okay. And so you have that all set up, and she's already been picked up by the Y and understands the whole, transportation and getting on the different buses, right?
She will stay there all year after school at Y.
Perfect. And does she like the Y?
She like it. She said she make friends.
Okay. And has she had fun? How many days has she been in school?
Since last Thursday, but
Okay.
she started the whole day on Friday because I have to go through all the paperwork on that Thursday.
Okay. And so she was happy to go to school yesterday and today?
Yeah, she is.
Okay. Okay. You understand that going forward, again, you need to keep the day shift, so that, yeah. Okay, Your Honor, that's all I have.
Ms. Gongora, any questions of this witness?
Not at this time, Judge.
Mr. Kinslow,
No questions.
Ms. Houston.
Not today, Your Honor.
All right. Any further witnesses, Ms. Ryan?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Kinslow,
No witness.
Ms. Houston.
I'd ask that you take judicial notice of the CASA report, and if CASA has anything else to add, I would ask that they add that.
I will take judicial notice of the CASA report. And anything further, Ms. Goldsmith?
Sorry.
You're good.
I just wanted to say that Alma's done well. I've done unannounced visits with Freya and her. And she's done a really good job of keeping in contact with me via even text message, sending me pictures, giving me a lot of updates of Freya. So that's been really nice. So that way, when I'm not there, I'm still getting some information on how she's doing. So I think this is going to be good for Freya and for Alma.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate, Ms. McGuire, how hard you've worked. And I know it seems like a lot of misunderstandings, and it seems like you have stayed very consistent in trying to get your daughter back. And I know that means a lot to your daughter. I have one question. The MSA that y'all have done, does it include no contact with the father and no contact with Yumi?
It was a Rule 11 agreement that specifically just went over the parameters for visitation during the summer months, and specifically stated that she was to be watched by either a licensed provider or some type of licensed daycare facility. And so I don't believe that we discussed anything about Mr. McGuire or Yumi being precluded from visitation.
Well, it's a given to me that Mr. McGuire will have no contact with this child, not in person, not on the phone, not electronically. It would be a danger for him to have any contact whatsoever with this child. Does anybody disagree with me?
Your Honor, I don't disagree. And also, we had an injunction in place in the final order in the last case, and I think that should basically be reinstated in this case.
Well, and Judge, I have Ms. McNamara here who attended the mediation. And so she said that the Rule 11 we have does not have that language. We just have been operating out under the former injunction that there is no, but yes, we need to make that very clear.
That's why I just want to make sure that I don't want there to be any misunderstanding, accidental or otherwise. And so, Ms. McGuire, you understand that it is my order that, and I doubt Mr. McGuire is trying to call you or show up, but just if he were to call you or show up, you do not answer the door, you do not answer the phone. He has caused you a lot of trouble and Freya a lot of trouble, and he has not taken any responsibility now for 2 whole cases to try to fix the situation that y'all are in. So 0 contact. Now, with regard to Yumi, I mean, what is the department and CASA's position? And I understand that it seems like right now they seem to be a bit estranged. If mother, as long as Ms. McGuire does not leave Freya unsupervised with Yumi, are we saying no visits, no contact whatsoever?
I don't believe that contact is appropriate at this time. As the court will recall, Yumi was also not involved in her CPS case, in which there were major concerns for her drug use as well. And so because we don't have any evidence to show that she is in any way changed, I think that it would be inappropriate to allow that contact at this time.
And Judge, if I could just interject, I think a very clear very clear lines are what we need, at least for the monitored return, maybe, is kind of my thought. And I think Ms. McGuire appreciates that too. It's like, this is the rule.
All right. I'm only looking long-term on whether or not we really believe for the next 30 years, Ms. McGuire is not going to at some point have Christmas dinner and assuming that her family members can show up and act right. I mean, so if we tell her now, never, nothing, no contact, then are we going to leave her to drop off the edge as soon as we're out of the case? Or do we need to, I mean, that's the point that I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, I understand that, Your Honor. And I'll leave that to the department.
What is CASA's position, Ms. Goldsmith?
I think at this time, I don't feel like it would be appropriate. I think maybe seeing how the monitor return goes and then maybe addressing that as we get closer to the end of a monitor return, and determining whether or not we allow something supervised at that point.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Kinslow?
I just want to make sure I can be clear to my client what his restrictions are. In the
He has
temporary
no
order.
access whatsoever. He can start, if he wants to start drug testing and work in his family service plan, then the department will schedule visits.
Okay. The temporary order said visits when he has visits with Constance McGuire. I don't know if he's having visits with Constance McGuire.
He's probably not. He's probably not drug testing.
But really, with not drug testing, he should not have visits at all. I understand that.
Right.
But we're modifying that so if he does drug test it and he has visits with Constance, does that include?
When you get in touch with your client, see if you can work something out with the department. We're not going to waste 30 minutes trying to come up with some idea that at some point he's going to show up and start drug testing.
And just to be clear, Constance is his other child that he was terminated on. So there shouldn't be any reference to visits with her. And she's not before this court.
Right. All right. Ms. McGuire, you believe that you understand everything that you and all of these folks on this screen have agreed to?
Yeah, I understand, Judge.
Okay. And do you understand that those agreements have been made, number one, so that Freya can be reunited with you and we can keep Freya safe?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have a very zealous advocate who I'm sure may not be able to answer every one of your calls right when it happens, but I'm fairly certain she returns your calls if there's a need for you to talk with her. Miss Ryan, right?
I don't know if it's a question, but she also talks to Autumn.
Okay.
Pretty frequently. We can switch out.
Okay. I just want to make sure, Ms. McGuire, that if there's anything that you have any question about, you have 1 or 2 lawyers that are available that can listen to you and help you so that you don't accidentally make a mistake that causes Freya to be removed again from you.
I do, Judge.
Okay, because I'm happy for this young lady. I'm happy for you that we're doing this monitored return. But I do not want it to fail. It would be devastating to Freya if she goes through this a third time. And if there were a third time, I would be hard pressed to think about putting her through it again.
Yeah.
Okay. I know Ms. Tabor has worked really hard. I know your lawyers have worked really hard, and CASA as well. CASA has gone way out of their way to drive to check on y'all so that we could get to where we are today. If you need something, please reach out for help before something bad happens. Okay?
I will.
Okay. All right. Otherwise, the court does find that it is in the best interest of this child that Freya be placed, will remain in the temporary managing conservatorship of the department, but be placed on a monitored return with Ms. McGuire. I'm ordering that the mother will continue to follow all terms of the Rule 11 that have been reached regarding the babysitting, who's watching Freya, the staying on a day shift. The child will continue at the YMCA. I'm also ordering that the mother will not allow Mr. McGuire or Yumi any access to this child in person, telephonically, virtually. I'm guessing Freya's not asking for either one of them. Is that right, Ms. McGuire?
She tried to ask on Yumi.
And you can just tell her for right now that the judge said no. Okay. What I am going to do is I'm going to give discretion to Ms. Houston, CASA, and the department that in the event Ms. McGuire believes that there should be some contact between Yumi and Freya, that if Ms. McGuire makes that request for a specific contact, that the ad litems and department can evaluate that and can authorize it, but it would be in writing and it would be very clear the parameters of any kind of contact between Freya and Yumi. So, Ms. McGuire, until you have an agreement in writing that includes the agreement of CASA, CPS, and Ms. Houston, you will not allow Yumi to have any contact with Freya. Okay?
Okay.
And I would just kind of encourage y'all that if Ms. McGuire doesn't see it happening, then that's something y'all don't have to worry about. In the event that looking forward, she might like that, then I think that at some point during the monitored return, we might kind of look at what that might look like, what kind of safeguards could be put in place. So maybe we can even monitor those safeguards before we get out. All right. Anything further, Ms. Gongora? Anything I've left out?
Don't believe so, Judge.
Ms. Ryan?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Kinslow?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Houston?
No, Your Honor.
CASA? All right. Congratulations, Ms. McGuire.
Judge,
Yes,
dates.
I know. I'm getting there. Go ahead, Mr. Crosby.
The new dismissal date is February the 11th, 2023. The next permanency hearing is December 12th. February 11th, 2024. The next permanency is December 12th, 2023. And the final hearing is January 16th, 2024.
All right.
I missed the December and January dates. I apologize, Marcus.
December 12th, January 16th.
Thank you.
If there's nothing further, we'll be in recess at this time. January 26, 2023. The other children are on a separate time schedule. Today, the department is present through Ms. Gongora. CASA is the guardian ad litem. CASA is present through the supervisor, Ms. Johnson. And is Ms. Parker the ad litem, probably for Kamaya, and Mr. Godowski is for Kevon. Is that right?
I have Keyshawn, Keontae, and Mario.
Yes, I have Kamaya and Kevon.
Okay. So technically it's Ms. Parker's day. Mr. Godowski is here on children that are not on today's docket, just so that I can keep it clear. Mr. Keithley is the attorney ad litem for Kevon. Mr. Levy is the attorney ad litem for Kamaya. Sam Kinslow is present with the father, Daryl Miles. Sam Martinez is present with the mother, Breanne Davis. And the prior conservator, Miss Mariana Miles, is present representing herself. We're set for a final hearing. Is everyone ready for a final?
Your Honor, the department is not ready to move forward with the final hearing at this time. Instead, we would actually request an extension of the monitored return. And specifically, Judge, we're requesting that so that the two children in this case, or specifically on the docket today, these two children and their mother can continue in family therapy and individual therapy.
Your Honor, and I'm representing the mother that she has to monitor return. Those two children are with her. She has no opposition to the extension. She knows she's working. There's obviously the other children that are involved in the other case, and she's wanting to work with all the children, and she still wants all the services.
Mr. Kinslow?
Your Honor, I want to express an opinion as to extension. I had my client brought because it was going to be a final hearing and I wanted my client present, so I don't really have a comment on the extension. I would ask that the court give some discretion to the department, to the ad litem, and to CASA to the extent the therapy says that the children should have contact with their father appropriately based on his circumstances, and that we can work on that perhaps outside of court.
Ms. Miles, any comment regarding the department's request to give an extension in this case regarding Kamaya and Kevon?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with the extension.
All right, Mr. Levy?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Keithley, this it does involve one of your children. What is your position?
I support the extension, Your Honor.
All right, and then CASA, Ms. Parker, Mr. Godowski.
We support the
Yes,
extension
I
as well.
support this extension as well.
Perfect. All right. It sounds to me like there is a stipulation that there are extraordinary circumstances, that these children have been separated from their mother for some period of time. They have been reunified, and the department is providing both individual therapy for the children as well as family therapy. And everyone believes it'd be in the best interest of these children for the department to stay involved and offer a little bit more support to these children and the mother. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
All right. Based on the stipulation by all, the court finds that there are extraordinary circumstances in this case regarding Kamaya and Kevon. I will grant an extension of time. I will put the dates then on this extension to match up with the court dates that are already in place regarding Keyshawn, Keontae, and Marmar. Those dates add up, correct, Mr. Crosby?
January 29th is the dismissal, and the next setting is November 14th.
Correct. That is the same dates that was on the original scheduling order. So we'll take them all up together in November. Is there anything further, Ms. Gongora?
No, Your Honor, not at this time.
Mr. Martinez?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Kinslow?
Just that the department and the ad litem and CASA can have some discretion on visits for Mr. Miles.
They always have discretion if there's an agreement. Ms. Miles, anything you'd like to add at this time?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Levy?
No, Judge.
Mr. Keithley?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Parker?
No.
And Mr. Godowski?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And just so I covered everybody, Ms. Johnson, you're the supervisor. Is there anything else that you feel like CASA needs to address?
That's the hearing.
All right. All right. I found extraordinary circumstances, granted the extension, made the new scheduling order. Our next date will be November 14th, 2023 at 9 a.m. Well, it may or may not be at 9 a.m. It'll depend on the schedule. It will be on Zoom, and the schedule for what time, what hour of the day this will be set for would be available probably by Thursday or Friday, the day before the Tuesday. Katie Casper is the children's attorney and guardian ad litem. John McLeod is present with the mother, Ashley Bailey. Mr. Brian Howell is present with the father of Nova, DeAndre. And Jamal Payton is the alleged father of Avea. Has he been served, Ms. West?
He has, Your Honor.
And he is in jail and
That's correct, Judge.
he is in default. I noticed that the department has filed an amended petition. I guess that is to allege the alleged father for Avea.
That's correct, Judge.
All right. And I have previously ordered the transfer and consolidation of Nova's case into this one. If everyone's ready, you may call your first witness.
The department calls Jessica Ibarra. Ma'am, how are these children doing?
They are doing great. There are some issues as far as like, the only concerns really are after visits, how the kids need some time to re-regulate, to kind of get back to their normal selves or their normal routine, if that makes sense.
Okay, so the children are exhibiting some behaviors after visits?
Yes.
And is this after visits with their mother, Miss Bailey?
Yes, it is.
And what kind of behaviors are they exhibiting?
Well, for instance, after visits, Avea will have frequent, I guess I would say, accidents, like she pees on herself. And it's not just at nighttime. It could just kind of be anytime, really. Yeah. But it does happen right after visits with mom. Also, another thing is Avea will become very distant with the caregiver and kind of shuts down from her and just kind of won't even talk to her until maybe a day or two. With Nova, the behavioral differences with her are that she's like angry. She will go into daycare like very upset, screaming, hard to console her. But they do manage to do that. But it's just that it's a reoccurring thing and it's always after visits.
So to be clear, those behaviors you just described are not normal for these children, correct?
No, it's not.
And how long do these behaviors last after visits with Miss Bailey?
For at least 2 days, for sure.
Is the department doing anything to try to help the children with this and to address these behaviors they're experiencing?
Yes. So, no, I'm sorry. Avea starts therapy tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow. Yes. And as far as Nova, luckily hers is not to the extent as Avea's is. So they're able to just kind of talk her through those issues. And the daycare is a great support system for Nova as well, because they're able to help console her and just kind of help regulate her back to her normal behaviors.
So at this point, the department's hope is that therapy is going to help Avea with her issues, with her behaviors after visits, but Nova's seem to be worked out through daycare and other measures, correct?
Yes.
And this therapy that Avea is going to start tomorrow, do you know how often she'll be going?
Yes, it'll be weekly.
At this point, are there any other services or methods that you think would help these children with their behaviors after visits with mom?
Other than the therapy for Avea, I think that's what's going to be best for them. Yes.
Do you have any other updates as it relates to the children?
No.
Okay. Let's talk about the mother. Do we have any updates on her family plan of service since the court report was filed?
The only other update would be that she had another counseling session on Monday. I'm not sure as far as when she would have done another parenting class, because I believe she only does them on Saturdays.
So the goal at this time is family reunification, correct?
Yes.
And is that aimed towards the mother in this case?
It currently is, but I know that we're looking towards working that out with dad as well.
Specifically with Mr. Kamen?
Yes, for Nova, yes.
Okay. But as it relates to Avea, what does the mother need to do in order to work towards family reunification?
Acknowledge that there are some issues with the girls' behaviors. Mom seems to be pretty combative against that. and not willing to accept that there are issues with the girls in general, especially due to the fact that they've been placed out of their home twice now and that they are affected by that.
Have you spoken with the mother about the behaviors the girls have been exhibiting after visits?
Yes.
And what was her response?
Dismissive. Basically that's not the case, or combative.
And so that sort of reaction is concerning for the department, correct?
It is, yes, because
Okay.
anything that we bring up to her, it's always dismissed and it's always combative. So I don't feel, Mhm.
And so if she doesn't acknowledge it, she can't help the girls work through it.
Right.
Is there anything beyond acknowledging that the mother needs to be doing differently?
No.
Do you have any other updates as it relates to the mother?
No.
As it relates to Mr. Kamen, do you have any updates on his progress on his family plan of service?
Yes, so he has completed his anger management. He's completed the parenting. He has also, he's almost done with individual therapy, and he is about to start couples counseling.
And who is he going to begin couples counseling with?
Tarina.
Is that his current partner?
Yes, it is.
And that's the individual he's residing with, correct?
Yes, it is.
Your report mentions that he completed a psychosocial on March 7th. Were there any recommendations from that?
Only that he continued to participate in individual counseling.
Is there anything that Mr. Kamen needs to be doing that he's not doing at this point?
No, we would just like to see him maintain stability as far as like in his relationships and his home.
Do you have any other updates that relates to Mr. Kamen?
No.
And ma'am, it's your understanding that Mr. Payton has been added as an alleged father in this case, correct?
Yes.
Has the department had any contact with him?
No, I made an effort to go see him today, but I did not know that visitation was not until 1.
Okay, so the department's not made contact with Mr. Payton at this time?
No.
Okay. Do you have any other updates as it relates to this case?
I don't.
Anything else you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
No.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. McLeod.
Mrs. Barrow, just to be clear, neither one of the girls has been seen by a counselor as yet, correct?
Correct.
So the department has no professional opinion by anyone trained to evaluate these children to determine why they may be reacting the way they are following visits with mom.
No.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So they could just be upset that they're not with mom or not seeing her more, correct?
They could be upset for a number of reasons. Yes.
Okay. I just want to be clear. Now, mom had a psychological back in April. Is there anything from that psychological that the department wants to add to her plan?
No.
Okay. In terms of visits with the children, where are those visits taking place?
The standard visits take place at Talina's, but Talina will offer additional visits, and those vary. They can take place at the park, at a restaurant. It just kind of depends on where they end up going for additional visits.
And Talina being the caregiver, the aunt?
Yes.
And how many times a week does Talina supervise a visit that's scheduled?
One that's scheduled.
And any other visits are just discretionary, correct?
Correct.
Now at the PC, I'm sorry, ma'am. Oh, I thought you said something else. I apologize.
Yeah.
At the permanency conference, we talked about the possibility of Ms. Bailey having some additional visits to be supervised by her aunt, Ms. Vickers, correct?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Vickers, in Ms. Bailey's previous case, it's my understanding she supervised visits for Ms. Bailey in that case with children. with I think it was just Avea at that point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does the department have any information regarding Ms. Vickers that would show a change in her status in terms of being able to supervise visits between Ms. Bailey and the children?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Do you know whether the children are familiar with Ms. Vickers?
I believe they are, yes.
And so does the department have any objection to Ms. Vickers supervising some additional visits between Ms. Bailey and the children to allow additional time for them to spend together?
Well, at the time that this was requested, the caregiver has been giving additional visits, so we did not feel the need to do that, considering they are getting additional visits. Mom is. And even though she's getting...
Ma'am, if you'll just answer the question that Mr. McLeod asked.
Oh, sorry.
Does the department have any objection or anything to Ms. Vickers supervising some additional time between Ms. Bailey and the children?
Yes.
And what's that based on then?
That they are already getting additional visits with parent currently.
Well, but that's discretionary, correct?
Yes.
And so do you know how often Ms. Bailey may be getting additional visits with the children?
I believe 1 to 2 additional visits a week, but I don't know the exact number.
Okay. Well, is there
One second. I'm gonna have a breakout room, and I'm gonna invite the lawyers to come in. Mr. McLeod, any further questions of this witness at this time?
Not at this time, Judge.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, it sounds like Mr. Kamen has made significant progress on his service plan. Is that correct, Ms. Ybarra? Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. And so right now he's just re-engaged in individual therapy and some couples counseling. Is that right?
Yes.
Anything that he needs to be doing that he's not at this time?
No.
All right. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Casper?
Ms. Ybarra, Dad was arrested recently. Is that correct? That is correct. Okay. So that is an ongoing concern. Would you agree? Yes, it is. Okay. But he does work well with the caregivers and is very invested in Nova. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And he also engages well with the older child, Avea, who's not his. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What have been some of the concerns regarding mom's visits while she is being supervised by the caregivers?
What she discusses with the girls, also what she does during the visits, as far as I know that recently there was an issue with her speaking with another male or something like that. And I believe the girls became upset over that.
Okay. In fact, they said, we met mom's new boyfriend. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Has there also been a shift in the way what the kids call you?
Yes. They call me the CPS lady when they normally would call me Miss Jess.
Okay. And so the caregiver has basically gotten on to mom about trying to be positive about the people who are coming in and be kind to them, and they're here to help us. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are there also concerns with mom questioning, particularly Avea, about what Mr. Kamen gets to do on his visits when he sees them?
Yes, that is a concern.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about the daycare issue that came up recently?
Yes. So I spoke with Mr. Saunders because he was really concerned about the girls' well-being.
Okay, let me stop you.
Okay.
Who's Mr. Saunders?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Saunders is Nova's, he is the head guy at the daycare. So the husband of the owner.
Okay. And how
Judge,
long?
I'm going to object to the worker testifying about what somebody else has told her without that witness being present.
All right. If we're not going to take up the issue today of expanding visits, is this necessary, Ms. Casper?
I actually was referring to a different issue with the finances of daycare, but I can move on to that.
Okay.
Okay. Missy Barr, what happened with I guess, paying for the daycare? Mom was combative about it.
Okay, let me stop you there. What was the daycare being paid for? What happened?
So CCS has covered that in the past, and they could not cover it now. And so I asked Mom if she could help with those coverage costs because Talina otherwise would be responsible for that. And it was coming really close to the cutoff date for that. And Mom was just combative whenever I asked in regards to that. And then also proceeded to ask me what if Dad was going to do the same thing.
Okay. And did you talk with Mr. Kamen about it as well?
I did.
Okay. And what was his response?
Yes.
Yes, as to what? He would
participate in paying half a daycare and did not give me any issues in regards to it.
And has that issue been resolved yet? Or is that something the caregivers are still going to be on the hook for?
That's something that we just found out that I believe it did pass for the CCS.
Okay, so that actually is going to be covered now and the parents don't need to contribute to that.
That's correct.
Okay, have either of the parents contributed financially or helped at all for the children while they've been in Talina's home?
Yes, I do know that Mom has bought the girls' clothes, has bought them some things for their room, has bought pull-ups as well. DeAndre has done the same thing as far as clothes and stuff like that.
Okay, and then how often is DeAndre seeing the kids?
Once a week, also with additional visits at Talina's discretion.
Okay, there seem to be any issues with those?
No.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
Anything further, Ms. West?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. McLeod?
Nothing, Judge.
Mr. Howell?
I don't have anything else, Your Honor.
Anything further, Ms. Casper?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So parties, just so you know, when I took the lawyers into a breakout room, I didn't know there was going to be a big contested issue on visits today. I want to make sure that if somebody needs to flesh that out more, we'll have another hearing. If y'all can't work it out informally, Mr. McLeod can set a request for temporary orders for the court, and I'll set aside 30 minutes or an hour to be able to hear all the issues regarding the visitation issue at that time. But I just don't have on my docket time today to take that up. I've got another hearing starting in 4 minutes. For the purposes of the permanency hearing, the court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plan. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. The court finds that the department is making reasonable efforts to reunify and also to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan. It sounds like, based on the report, that the Herreras are also working on getting licensed as a plan B or plan C. Is that right, Ms. Jabara?
It is.
Okay. The court finds that the mother and Mr. Kamen are making some progress on the family service plans. Mr. Payton is not. Parents, the law requires that I admonish you that if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child or children, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. Our next hearing is the second permanency docket on Mr. Howell's motion to withdraw. He is present with Ms. Nichols, the mother. This case has been appealed. It's my understanding, based on your motion, Mr. Howell, that you have filed a petition for discretionary review and that it has been denied by the Supreme Court. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And you are, based on your motion, you're asking that I allow you to withdraw. And you've indicated that Ms. Nichols would like to represent herself in requesting a rehearing of that petition for discretionary review being refused.
That is my understanding, Your Honor.
All right. So Ms.
I have
Nichols.
advised, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mr. Howell.
I just wanted to put on the record that I have discussed this with Ms. Nichols in depth and advised her that the Supreme Court did deny her writ for discretionary review on August the 4th, and that she has 15 days to file the motion for rehearing, which falls on August 19th, which is, I believe, a Saturday. So it would, the answer date would roll over to August 21st. I have sent that to her in writing. She's aware of those dates as well as the same deadline that she has to file a motion to extend the time to file the motion for rehearing.
All right. And Ms. Nichols, while Mr. Howell was going through those dates and all of the timelines, you were nodding your head that you understand and you understand those deadlines. Is that right?
Yes, I understand. That's why I just want to go ahead and get this done with, because the Supreme Court will not allow me to do it unless Mr. Howell is removed.
Correct. And that was Mr. Howell presented me with the motion that it appears as though you've signed off on the motion in the order, but due to the time sensitive nature, and I'm glad you were able to be available so soon so that we could take this up, I could make sure that you understood your rights, because this court has previously found that you're indigent and that you are entitled to have a court-appointed attorney, but you're indicating to the court now you want to represent yourself in urging a rehearing. Is that correct?
Well, given the timeline, I think that's the best option, because even if you were to allow me another attorney at this late stage of the game with the timelines we're looking at, it's just not realistic. So okay. I'm just going to have to go do it myself.
Okay. Anything further that Mr. Howell?
I think that covers it for my end, Your Honor.
All right. And Ms. Nichols, you understand, I know I've already asked you this, you understand the timelines. It seems like you're very aware of the timelines and what you need to do in the Supreme Court.
Yes, ma'am. I'm actually on my way back to Texas now. I just got back from Virginia. So I literally have like 2 days. By the time I get back home, I literally have 2 days to do this. So I'm definitely praying that I can pull this off, because I understand it's my last ditch effort.
All right. Mr. Howell, I will grant anything, Ms. West, although.
No, Your Honor.
Anything, Ms. Johnson? Okay, you're shaking your head no. All right. Under the circumstances, then, I will grant Mr. Howell's request to withdraw, find that you are wanting to proceed pro se, that Mr. Howell has given you all of the information regarding the upcoming deadlines. Mr. Howell, if you'll just double check that the order that you have provided indicates those findings, and I will sign your order that you have. In fact, we probably need to get it done today so Ms. Nichols can have it, so she can show the Supreme Court that she is in fact representing herself.
Yes, Your Honor. I believe I do need to probably update the order to have those specific dates in there, and I will do that immediately and get that sent to Marcus.
And if you'll just go ahead also and make sure that the order accurately reflects that Ms. Nichols is wanting to represent herself.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just so that it's clear in the Supreme Court. And then as soon as Mr. Howell uploads that order, Ms. Nichols, for me, I will get it filed. Mr. Howell is on the e-file list. Will you make sure that Ms. Nichols promptly gets the order allowing you to withdraw?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. By the time you get back to Texas, it should be available for you, ma'am. Children.
I appreciate it.
On the court docket for a final hearing. The department is present through Ms. West. Spring Thummel is the children's attorney and guardian ad litem. I'm getting messages that I'm reading. It looks like the guards are here. Not okay, so I'm bringing them in. Mr. Howell is present with the mother, Jessica Allen. Casey Maldonado has been served and is in default. Also, let the record reflect that the guards are present. They are the placement of Cody. Is that right, Ms. West, Ms. Thummel?
Cody and Maggie.
All right, thank you. All right, is everyone ready for the final?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are y'all anticipating that we can hear this matter in full in the next 50 minutes?
I believe so, Judge.
Call your first witness.
The department calls Shauna Smith. So you're quite familiar with the facts and circumstances surrounding this case, correct?
Yes.
Can you briefly remind the court the concerns the department had that led to these children's removal?
Yes, the father was incarcerated during the time of the removal, and the mother, the department removed due to drug use by the mother, and also concerns about them being homeless and mom having some criminal charges, including evading arrest as well.
And am I correct, ma'am, that the mother spent some of the time during this case incarcerated?
Yes, it was very shortly prior to the status hearing. She was arrested. She had her criminal hearing and she went to jail.
But she was subsequently released from incarceration, correct?
Correct.
Around the beginning of this year?
Yes,
And am I correct, ma'am, that there was a family plan of service that was created for the mother and the father in this case?
that's correct.
Your Honor, I asked the court to take judicial notice of the family plans of service that were filed on October 12th, along with the status hearing order that made those family plans of service in order of the court.
The court can take judicial notice that a family service plan was filed and that it was ordered, but not the contents of the family service plan.
Yes, Your Honor. And Ms. Smith, did the department go over the family plans of service with the mother in this case?
Yes, the initial conservatorship worker was Michaela Simeon, and she went over the family plan of service with her.
And am I correct, ma'am, that the department has tried to maintain contact with the mother throughout this case to check in on her progress for her services?
Yes,
And has the department provided the mother about information about the providers for these services?
yes,
And have the services that were on the mother's family plan of service, were the referrals sent in?
yes, they were.
Okay, and so the mother had the opportunity to go to those providers and work services.
Yes, that's correct.
So, ma'am, was it part of the mother's family plan of service to maintain safe and stable housing?
Yes, it was.
And to your knowledge, has the mother done so?
No,
And was it part of her family plan of service to engage in counseling and protective parenting?
yes,
Okay, and to your knowledge, has the mother completed that?
she has not completed that. She started attending individual counseling in the middle of June, and she was attending pretty consistently until the last 4 weeks. She has consecutively 4 weeks in a row no-showed with the counseling network.
Okay, so she only attended a couple of sessions of counseling, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And what about protective parenting?
she completed 3 protective parenting classes with Dr. Schinder.
And was drug testing pursuant to the color code part of her family plan of service?
Yes,
To your knowledge, has the mother consistently drug tested pursuant to the color code?
no, she has not.
Am I correct, ma'am, that the mother has not drug tested for the department since April 18th?
That's correct.
And that April 18th drug test was positive for methamphetamines,
Yes,
both a UA and a hair follicle.
yes,
Am I correct, ma'am, that the mother has informed the department that she has been using methamphetamines?
yes, she informed the department that her last use was in June, is what she self-reported.
Has the department explained to the mother that in order to see her children, she needs to drug test?
Yes,
To your knowledge, has the mother had any sort of contact, in-person contact with her children during the life of this case?
No.
Okay. And so she drug tested in April. Did she have a visit then?
No.
And has she had any sort of contact with her children during the life of this case?
she was having contact with Caitlin through social media for a period of time. And I'm not certain in regards to Maggie, but there's never been contact with Cody.
Has the mother offered any sort of financial support for these children during the life of this case?
Not that the department is aware of.
Has she provided any food or clothes to the caregivers of these children?
No,
Has she offered anything, food, clothes, school supplies, anything to support these children during the life of this case?
No.
Is it fair to say, ma'am, from the department standpoint, that the mother is not in the position to care for these children?
that's correct.
Does the department believe it's in the best interest of these children for the mother's parental rights to be terminated?
Yes.
Does the department believe? Why does the department believe that's best for these children?
These children, prior to being removed and brought into temporary custody by the department, they have lived a life of instability, a life of worry, homelessness, where they're going to go and stay from day to day. They were exposed to drugs. There was concern about Caitlin being exposed to various men, just a very unsafe environment. And since they have been in our care, the kids, for the most part, have been with the Gargazes, where they've been shown consistency and stability, safety. They don't have to worry about what each day brings to these kids, and they deserve that. They want a life of permanency. They want a forever home, and that's what they deserve.
And at this time, the mother cannot offer them any sort of permanency or forever home.
That's correct.
Do you have any other information as it relates to the mother you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
No.
And as it relates to the father, is it your understanding that he is incarcerated?
Yes, he is incarcerated.
Okay. And part of his family plan of service was for him to complete parenting packets and an AA/NA packet and other packets the department sent him, correct?
That is correct.
And to your knowledge, did the department send him those parenting packets or AA/NA packets?
Yes, the department has sent him the parenting packets and AANA packets.
And has the department received any information or those packets back from the father?
We have not received any of the packets back. He has written a letter to the department. He does have a courtesy worker through the department that sees him monthly, but he has not provided those. He has provided certificates of various classes that he's participated in while incarcerated, but not the packets that the department provided him.
And he's currently incarcerated for possession of a controlled substance, correct?
Yes, with the intent to deliver.
And ma'am, to your knowledge, has he had any contact with the children?
It was our understanding that he was writing letters back and forth between himself and Maggie, but he was directed and notified he needed to be going through the department.
Has he had any contact with Cody during this case?
No.
And you said he was writing letters with Maggie. Has he had any contact with Caitlin during this case?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Has the father offered any sort of support for these children in any capacity?
He has not.
Is the department today asking for his parental rights to be terminated?
Yes.
And does the department believe that's in the best interest of these children?
Yes.
And can you tell the court why the department believes in the best interest of these children for his parental rights to be terminated?
For the same reasons as with the mother, the father has shown no stability. He has not provided for these kids. These kids deserve to be able to have permanency. They deserve to have stability and safety. And if his parental rights were terminated, they would be able to have that opportunity through adoption.
Do you have any other information regarding the father you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
No.
And let's talk about these children and how they're currently doing. I believe Maggie and Cody are placed with the Garzas. Is that right?
Yes, they are.
So first, let's talk about Maggie. What is going on with her?
Maggie has had some mental health breakdowns, I guess I would call that, since being in the care of the department. But the Garzas have been attentive to those needs. She was assessed yesterday and she is receiving mental health services through Cedar Crest. And so they have set up a plan. My understanding is it's a half day where Maggie goes to school, and then it's an intensive outpatient program, and the Garzas are transporting her to the second half of the day to participate through Cedar Crest.
And so, ma'am, am I correct that the Garzas are committed to helping Maggie receive treatment or whatever she needs for her mental health?
Yes.
Are they committed to taking care of her and making sure her needs are met moving forward?
Yes.
Are they willing to be a long-term option for her?
Yes.
Does the department believe it's best for her to remain with the Garzas right now?
Yes.
And what about Cody? What's going on with him?
Cody was recently, I guess not recently, but he was placed back with the Garza family. He was placed in a foster home, but he has since returned back to the Garza family. Cody is doing very well. They are very much committed to the long-term care of Cody as well.
And does the department believe it's best for Cody to remain with the Garzas right now?
Yes.
And what about Caitlin? What's going on with her?
Caitlin is currently placed at settlement home. Caitlin has had some bumps in the road, I would say, but she appears to be doing well. The Garzas have been very involved since Caitlin has been at the settlement home. And I think that it's helped her in seeing that they are committed and they're still having like a family environment. For example, they went and picked her up from settlement home and she went on a family outing with them for the weekend. And she seems to be doing much better with that. The plan in regards to Caitlin is the Garzas are hopeful that after she completes the program at settlement home, that she could possibly return back to the Garzas home. But in addition to that possible option, the department also knows that the paternal grandparents are committed to the possibility of taking Caitlin as well.
And so am I correct, ma'am, the Garzas are committed to maintaining that sibling relationship, whether Caitlin's in the home or not?
Yes.
Do you have anything else you feel the court needs to be made aware of as it relates to this case?
No.
I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Bemmel.
Ms. Smith, are you receiving positive reports of Caitlin's progress at settlement home?
Yes, thus far.
Okay. And so we had a few bumps a few months ago, but she seems to be back on the right path.
Yes, I think I'm very hopeful and that will continue.
Okay. And has the department spoken specifically with Caitlin about these different options of, you know, maybe going back to the Garzas or maybe going to paternal grandmothers and exploring those options with her?
Yes.
And is she leaning one way as far as the department's aware?
I don't know that she's leaning one way or the other. I just know that she has a desire to be wanted. And so I think it's very optimistic that we have the Garzas as well as paternal grandma saying that they want her.
Okay. And have we started home study, home assessment, any of those things on the paternal grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything still outstanding that we would need to be completed if we were looking at placement with her?
A full home study has not been completed on the paternal grandparents, but a preliminary has. And so I don't think that there is anything that says at this point that the department would rule out the paternal grandparents, but a full home study has not been officially completed.
Okay. And if nothing else, we've got the Garzas as a good solid option for all three of the kids potentially, correct?
Yes.
The Garzas are in the process of getting licensed. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And there may be some things that the department needs to provide to their licensing agency to fill in some holes. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am. Mrs. Garza, well, I'm not sure if it was Mrs. Garza or Mr. Garza, but they did provide me some information that there were some issues with working through background checks. And so I've contacted some people to try to help in getting that rolling.
Okay. Do any of the children currently have any therapeutic needs that are not being addressed?
No.
And do any of the children have any medical needs that are not being addressed yet?
No.
The Garzas certainly have presented a huge willingness to be there for all of these kids in some way, shape, or form, correct?
Yes. And
do you believe that that connection is a healthy, solid connection to maintain for all of these children?
Yes, absolutely.
And even for the brief period of time when Cody was placed in a foster home, the Garzas expressed wanting to maintain a connection with him and facilitate sibling contact, correct?
Yes, I think the Garzas have most definitely shown their commitment and their familial attachment, even though they're not technically family. I think they have definitely showed their commitment to these kids.
Okay. I think you answered this already. If you did, I'm sorry. You said there's a courtesy worker assigned to dad, and he's communicated with the department. Is that right?
Yes.
But he's just not been able to complete any services, including the packets that the department has sent to him.
I just want to be clear, and I don't think it's a matter of him not being able to complete the packets. The packets are very simple tasks. I have no idea why he hasn't completed those packets. I will say in the letter, he takes no responsibility. He thinks he doesn't take the responsibility like, hey, I'm incarcerated. This is my fault too that my children are in care. So he just lacks that accountability as well.
Okay. And has the mother communicated to the department why she has fallen off her services, not drug testing, things like that?
She's given various reasons.
Okay. Any logistics that prevent her from going to counseling or doing her protective parenting?
No, the counseling that's been provided to her is a virtual counseling. We wanted her to do in-person counseling, but that didn't work. It's as simple as when the department attempts to do home visits with her, she doesn't want to allow us into the residence. She prefers that we meet with her outside. And so in doing services, there's really not an excuse for any of that.
Okay. So with everything that you know as a supervisor on this case, do you believe it's in the best interest of the children for them to remain in their current placements?
Yes.
And for parents' rights to be terminated?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Howell?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to go back and just confirm Ms. Allen does not have stable housing at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's my understanding the department does not know for sure exactly where that is right now. She's not been able to provide you with an address.
She has told the worker that she was moving into a new place. She was on a wait list for housing. In the previous residences we visited her was outside of an apartment.
Okay. So as far as where she's living now, the department has not visited that place. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. And is it also true the department has concerns about her possibly living with a new boyfriend, Mr. Kimbrough?
There is concerns of an ongoing relationship with him. We're not real certain. It has been extremely difficult throughout the life of this case to truly evaluate and assess Miss Allen.
Okay. And so your report states she was incarcerated up until about February of this year. Is that right?
That is correct.
So I'm looking at the drug test grid that you supplied in your report. So the only time she tested after she got out of incarceration, well, she tested at the start of the case back in August. She was positive for amphetamine and methamphetamine, correct?
Correct.
And then she didn't test again until she got out of jail in February, but she tested, I guess, for the first time in April. Is that right?
Correct.
And there was a UA and a hair, and they both were positive for the same methamphetamine and amphetamine. Is that right?
Yes.
Has she tested since April?
No.
I noticed on the grid, the last indication shows a UA in 6/1 of 23 that was pending. Is that just a mistake?
Well, that was a color code date, but she did not go.
Okay, so that test was never taken, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I mean, it looks like Dr. Schinder's recommendations on the psychological have several items that have not been addressed by Ms. Allen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And most importantly, one is that she's not a suitable independent parental resource. Is that right?
That's correct.
Does the department believe you did everything to try to reunite her with her children, and you were unable to do that?
Yes.
And you believe there's no alternative but to terminate Ms. Allen, is that right?
I believe termination is the best interest for these children.
We'll pass the witness.
Anything further, Ms. West?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, Ms. Thummel?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, Mr. Howell?
Your Honor, I know Ms. Allen is there. I see the tree. I don't know if I'd be able to put on any kind of meaningful testimony at this point.
All right. I do have one question, Ms. Smith. I know that the children have a relationship with the Garzas. It looks like the department is going to do the home study of the paternal grandparents. Do we anticipate that between the Garzas and the paternal grandparents that at some point they might be able to sort of work together?
Judge, I feel confident that the grandparents and the Garzas can work together. They have ongoing communication. The grandparents are very appreciative of the Garzas. They truly speak very high praises of the Garzas for these kids. They want to very much be able to be involved, and I have no doubt that the Garzas will allow for that to happen. I think it's the best case scenario for these kids, truly.
Thank you. Anything for Ms. West and Ms. Thummel? What specifically, which grounds are you asking for on each of the parents?
For N and O for each parent, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Thummel?
I'd concur, Judge.
All right. The court finds by clear and convincing evidence that the department has met its burden of proof to terminate the parents' parental rights. The court further finds by clear and convincing evidence that terminating the parental rights to these children is in the best interest of the children. The court will terminate the parental rights of the mother and the father, Ms. Allen and Mr. Maldonado, on the N and O grounds. The court further finds, although it's a whole week or 2 weeks early to start incorporating this finding, but we're going to have to get ready for it. And in this cause, the court finds that despite reasonable efforts, a continuing danger remains in the home of the parents that would prevent the children from returning to either of the parents. The parents' parental rights are terminated. I will appoint the department the permanent managing conservator of all 3 children. I will approve the current placements. I'll set this for a hearing to enter order on August 29th at 8:45. And a permanency after final Permission to modify the prior final order. October 8th, the department is present through Ms. West. Spring Thummel is the child's attorney and guardian ad litem. Mr. Kyle Dennis is present with the mother, Ursula Wosner. The father of this child is deceased. Is everyone ready for the final?
Yes, Your Honor.
It seems like, Ms. Portillo, are you part of this? Okay, sorry. I think at some point there was an idea that this would be presented to the court in the form of an agreement. Do we have an agreement?
We do not, Judge. We had circulated an order, but we didn't hear back from all the parties, and not all parties have signed it.
If y'all had a few minutes, do y'all want to see if y'all have at least an agreement on some of the issues, if not all of the issues? I could put you in a breakout room.
I think that'd be fine, Judge.
Okay, great. What I'll do, I'm going to create a breakout room, and I'm going to invite all of the parties and attorneys to go in. And this is all I have from now until 2 o'clock. So we'll at least narrow the issues. If we don't have time to hear the whole case today, we'll decide whether we want to just reset for another day or start and reset. All right, where are we?
We're in agreement with the order, Judge, that was presented.
All right, why don't we do this? Because it hasn't been signed by everyone, Ms. West, if you'd like to just generally go over the contents, and then I can ask Ms. Thummel if she agrees that it is in the best interest of Tristan, and then double check with Ms. Wosner and Mr. Dennis. And we'll go about it that way.
Your Honor, my understanding the agreement is just that Ms. Wosner is named the sole managing conservator of Tristan, and then the department will be dismissed.
All right. Ms. Thummel, do you believe that's in the best interest of this young man?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Dennis, you've had a chance to go over the order with your client.
Yes, Your Honor.
And is this her agreement?
It is, Your Honor. She would like to let the court know that because he is now on her personal medical insurance, she can't afford a number of the services that he was receiving. So he's no longer in any of the specific therapies at this time, but she is in agreement with the order.
All right. And she's nodding her head in agreement. I can see. All right. Is there anything further from anyone? And I'm guessing that the order has already been drafted and circulated but for Mr. Dennis and Ms. Wosner's signature. Is that something y'all can get signed by HelloSign or DocuSign or some way electronically? All right. If y'all will go ahead and make sure that does go ahead and get circulated back to Ms. West. And as soon as it gets uploaded, I'll sign off on it. But finding that the parties have an agreement, that this agreement is in the best interest of the child, I will grant the relief that's requested, remove the department as this child's permanent managing conservator. Whether I make a finding that mother is the natural conservator or name her sole managing, I'm not sure if it really matters. Basically, you're back to being mom again without the department being involved. So I'm not sure, Ms. West, if you need an order. Well, it's already been prepared, so we'll go with that. I will appoint the mother, the sole managing conservator of Tristan without limitation and dismiss the department. For a second permanency and final. The department is present through Ms. West. Costa is the guardian ad litem for this child. Costa is present both through Ms. Portillo and also Ms. Paltjohn. Spring Thummel is the child's attorney ad litem. Mr. McLeod is present with the mother, Ms. Tolliver, and Mr. Dennis is present for the father, Mr. Jamar Archie. Are we taking up second permanency and resetting the final, Ms. West?
That's the department's request, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No.
All right, you may continue.
The department calls Amy Diggs. Miss Diggs, how is Amir doing in his placement?
He's doing extremely well. He's active and enjoying playing in a football league and getting ready for school to start. So he's doing quite well. He's thriving.
Are there any concerns about the care he's receiving in his current placement?
No.
And ma'am, am I correct? The goal is still family reunification. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how have visits with the mother been going?
They have been supervised by the caregiver, and she reports that they've been going well. No concerns.
And ma'am, as noted in the CASA report, CASA is requesting that the department actually start supervising a visit once a month between the mother and Amir. Is that correct?
Yes.
What is the department's position on that request from CASA?
We would be in agreement with that.
Okay. Ma'am, does the department have any concerns about this current caregiver?
Not at this time.
Now, it was brought to the department's attention about a social media post the mother made. Is that right?
Yes.
Somewhat referencing that she possibly had Amir overnight or some overnight visit.
Yes.
Has the department reached out to the caregiver or the mother to try to figure out what's going on with that?
We reached out to the caregiver and she responded that he had not spent the night with his mom.
And to be clear, the department was made aware of this yesterday afternoon, correct?
Correct.
Have you asked the mother if she had any overnight or some visit like that with Amir?
She sent me a text message saying that she did not, that they were all together with the caregiver and that doing different activities, but that he did not spend the night and the caregiver was present.
Okay. And so at this point, the department doesn't have anything to support this notion that she might have had an overnight visit with him?
Correct.
Okay. But is it a concern for the department that the mother is making these sort of posts?
Yes.
Okay. And is it due to concerns just throughout this case about boundaries from the caregiver allowing the mom some access?
Yes.
Okay. What does the mother need to do in order to proceed with family reunification?
She is finishing up her, she has a few sessions left on her domestic violence class, and she's also in therapy. And I believe they're beginning family therapy either today or tomorrow.
Okay. And who will be providing them with family therapy?
It will be the therapist for Amir.
Okay. So the mother needs to continue on with her services and engage in family therapy, correct?
Yes.
Is there anything else the mother needs to be doing that she's not currently doing?
No, not at this time.
Is there anything the mother needs to refrain from doing?
I would say try and refrain from making the social media posts.
What was the post? I mean, did it say I'm not supposed to have my child overnight, but here I am with my child overnight? Or was it a picture with mom and a child and she's having an overnight, but she's supervised and she's excited?
Ms. Diggs?
Yes. It was a post saying that he was sleeping in the bed with her and he had been kicking around or something to that effect, Judge.
How do y'all put your kids out of your room? Amir won't get out. I just want to be alone. He punched me in the chest while I was asleep last night. I couldn't do nothing but grab my pillows and move to the other end of the bed.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. West.
So beyond the social media posts, is there anything else the mother needs to not be doing?
Not at this time.
Do you have any other updates as it relates to the mother?
No.
And as it relates to the father, do you have any updates on him since the court report was filed?
No.
Is there anything else you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
Not at this time.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Dennis?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Mr. McLeod?
Yeah, just a few, Judge. Ms. Diggs?
Yes.
Ms. West asked you about CASA's request about that the department supervised one visit a month for Ms. Tolliver, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the CASA report, CASA is also recommending that Ms. Tolliver be allowed to have 2 hours per week of unsupervised visits with Amir. Have you seen that in the CASA report?
Yes.
And what is the department's position on that?
We would be agreeable to that.
Okay. Just to be sure, I just want to make sure the report indicates the psychological results that came back. Is there any, you didn't mention anything, is there any additions to the plan or anything that the department's requesting that's listed there that hadn't been added to the plan?
Not at this time.
Okay. Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Ms. Bummel?
Ms. Diggs, your report indicates that Ms. Tolliver had a positive hair strand test in July. Is that correct?
Yes.
So even though she'd had several months of clean UAs, she's got a positive hair strand test, right?
Correct.
Have you talked to the mom about that result?
She reports that she has not been using, and it was a low level result. And it takes a while for it to leave your system.
Okay, so the department's not terribly concerned with that?
Not at this time.
Okay. Has the mother signed the releases that the department needs to get records from her various providers?
Yes.
Okay. And have you yet been able to obtain any of those records?
We are working on it. We've requested it in writing, and I talked to someone yesterday. The therapist is out right now, so we will follow up in the next couple of days.
Okay. And from the report, it says that Dr. Schinder's report recommends that she do anger management. Is that something that she's working on in individual therapy to your knowledge?
That is my understanding, yes.
And that is from Ms. Tolliver's self-report?
Yes.
Okay. And even though you haven't been able to verify anything directly with the providers, the department's comfortable with her progress and starting some unsupervised time?
Yes.
Okay. It took a while to get Amir's individual therapy going, but it is happening consistently. Is that your understanding?
Yes, that is my understanding.
Have you requested any notes from his therapist?
Yes, I have.
Have you received any?
I do not believe we received any yet, but we should be getting them any day.
Okay. But it's your understanding that Amir's therapist is the one who was recommending the family therapy start, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right, I'll pass the witness.
Anything further of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Your next witness?
I have no further witnesses.
Mr. Dennis?
I have no witnesses, Judge.
Mr.
Sorry.
I think you said me, Judge. I have no witnesses.
All right, Ms. Bummel?
I'd ask the court to take judicial notice of the CASA report, and then just if CASA has any additional updates.
Thank you. The court will. Ms. Paul John, Ms. Portillo, anything further?
Not at this time.
All right, so it sounds like we're in agreement that one visit per month will be supervised by the department. It sounds like we're in agreement that the mother can have 1 2-hour unsupervised per week. And it sounds like the request for anger management is already being addressed. Is that right?
That's my understanding, Judge.
Or should I go ahead and add it? I'll come back to you, Ms. Tolliver, thanks. Should I go ahead and add it to the family service plan with the caveat that if it can be addressed in individual therapy, then that would be sufficient?
I think that's fine, Judge. We want to add it.
All right.
Judge, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Just for clarification for Ms. Tolliver's, for Ms. Tolliver and the caregiver who's here, I'm assuming that the court's general position that the unsupervised visits can be increased in duration and number if agreed to by all parties, including.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not even all parties, the department, CASA, and Ms. Thummel.
Yes, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
All right. All right. The court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plan. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. The court finds that the department is making reasonable efforts to reunify and also to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan at this time. Again, I'll order that the department will start supervising 1 visit per month. Mom will have 1 visit, 2 hours unsupervised each week. The court finds that the mother is making progress. The father is not making progress on the family service plan. I'm adding anger management for the mother's family service plan if it cannot be addressed in individual therapy. The law requires that I admonish all parents, if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your children, your child, your parental rights can be subject to restriction or termination. Ms. Tolliver, I'm not quite sure. I think I got pretty much the gist of the Facebook post. that probably wasn't the best idea. You're getting a chance to spend time with your child and you went on Facebook, kind of not sounding like you're too thankful to have time with him. I find that more frustrating than the fact that it kind of could have looked like you were unsupervised. That's just not a real bright thing to do. Do you see why?
Yes, I definitely understand. And I think that the post was taken out of context. I mean, I've had my same social media account since 2009. So when I make these type of posts, whoever I'm making it for, they know my concept. It was a ha-ha type of post. But I did want to mention about the anger management. This is my first time ever hearing that this was recommended, like literally in this meeting. So I'm a little taken aback by that.
Did you get a copy of the report?
No, I did not receive a copy of the social from Dr. Shin.
No, this report that was filed by Ms. Diggs on August the 3rd.
Oh, no, I did not.
It should have been mailed to the 28th.
13. I don't know if they got the wrong address, and that's probably why I didn't get it.
That could be it. Well, if you are in individual therapy and if Ms. Diggs can confirm that your therapist can just address the anger management issues with you, then that will be sufficient. So it's not a separate service.
Okay.
Okay. Is that all right with you, Diggs? All right. The next hearing in this matter will be a final hearing. Our dismissal date is October 23rd. Would y'all like to kind of maybe go all the way? How about Tuesday, October 10th?